Hello everyone, greetings from Soroti, and I want to welcome all of you to this very wonderful day in the history of our country, Uganda. Every year on 3rd June, we commemorate the Uganda Martyrs Day, and it's a public holiday in Uganda. As Ugandans reflect on the faith of those who received Christianity more than 100 years ago and are able to defend it even with their lives. Some theologians have said that the blood of the martyr is the seed of the church. And on this day, we reflect on those young men who were pages in Kabaka Mwanga's court, who after receiving Christianity from the missionaries, decided to follow the way and resented the rituals, the negative and evil advances of the king and from the palace to defend their faith. They were branded criminals and rebels, and because of this, their loyalty had shifted to following God's ways, and so the king and his henchmen became increasingly suspicious and decided that these young men don't deserve to live because they have turned against the traditional norms and values of the kingdom. So many of them were butchered, burnt alive, speared, hanged across the Namugongo area. And on June 3rd of every year, we reflect on these young men, on what they did and how they were able to fight. Fight and defend their faith and allowed to be killed instead of having the option to deny Christ, to deny Christianity and save their lives. They all opted to die for Christ, to die for the truth, to die for what their conscience was telling them was the right thing. So today, as we commemorate this day, I want us to ask ourselves, what are the martyrs teaching us today? What is it that you're learning? Is it just about celebrating the Uganda Martyrs? Or it's all about what lessons are down to us today and that we apply in our everyday life? Matters are there every day. There are political matters, there are social matters, there are religious matters. And even today, I was told of a story of a young man in Kampala who was a committed Christian and believed in justice and fairness and integrity. And was working in an organization which was surrounded by people who were crafty. And so because he was an accountant, they wanted him to steal money. So they kept forcing him to sign checks which were transferring millions from the account. And they told him, please, can you sign this check? He refused. He said, the transaction you are going in for is not right. You're stealing. So when they got fed up, pestering him and trying to convince him peacefully to give them the money, they planned to kill him. One day he had a young wife and a young child. They stormed into his wife, put him at gunpoint, told him if he could sign the check. When he refused, they shot him dead. And there are many people like that in the world today who, because of their conscience, they do not succumb to pressure. They refuse to do evil. They refuse to bribe. They refuse to sign things which are wrong. And many of them have lost their jobs. Many of them, their families have been victimized. Many of them have even been killed for their conscience, for doing the right things right. And sometimes amidst us, they are perpetrators. There are people who use their position, like Mwanga used his position to persecute and to destroy. Even today, not just in politics, even in the church, there are people who use their position to force others to do evil. And when they refuse, their lives are at risk. They kill, they remove from power, they blackmail, they ridicule, and they destroy. And the question I want to ask you today, are you a victim? Have you stood for what is right? Have you insisted on doing the right things right? Do you insist on fairness and justice? Have you defended what is true? If you have done so, you're more like a martyr, and you're more like these martyrs. And some people have died. And who knows, maybe on your insisting to do right, it may even cost your life. You know. So as we're saying, as we remember those matters, let's remember people in our daily work who are faced with all these challenges. People who are at the risk of losing their jobs now because some boss is pressurizing them to do what is evil. People, widows who have lost their husbands because they stood on what is true. They refuse to succumb to pressure. They refuse to do wickedness. And they are long dead. Orphans whose parents stood on right and justice and fairness, and they lost their lives. There's so many victims of persecution. There's so many victims of injustice in our society today. And when we will pay for it, justice may be delayed, but it will never be denied. God is a fair and just God. I want to warn you, if you're a perpetrator, you're like Mwanga, who wants to use your position to persecute people. You'll even destroy some of them. Repent and turn away from that wickedness. And for those of you who are victims, sometimes God does not save us from trouble. Sometimes He saves us in our trouble, like He saved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He allowed them to be cast into the fire, and there He saved them. But sometimes He does not for His own reasons. He allows us to become victims. And every day there are victims across the world. People whom you would think God would protect because they are doing the right things. And many times they end up dead. And maybe your relative died like that, and you're asking God, why did you allow my father to die? Why did you allow my son to die? And yet he was doing the right thing. There are questions that we can never have answers, but God understands and God knows. I want you to cast your cares, your fears, your anxiety, your frustrations onto the Lord because He cares for you. Don't compromise. Don't refuse to do right because you are under pressure. Don't refuse to follow good because somebody else became a victim. Walk your own journey. And for your information, God, who calls us to this responsibility and position, expects us to be faithful, expects us to be accountable, expects us to do the right thing. So don't succumb to pressure and lose your faith and lose your soul. The Uganda Martyrs stood it all. They faced it all and they never gave up. And I believe they are with God in glory. Time will come when the Lord will say of you, well done, good and faithful servant. And all of us would love to receive those words from God Himself. If we love praises from people, how much more if God Himself praises us? So I want to encourage you, child of God out there, whose job may be at risk, whose life may be at risk. May God give you the grace. May God protect you, but don't compromise. And I want to warn you, perpetrators out there. You are the one who is forcing people to do wrong things. You're the one who is persecuting people. You're the one who hates those who are standing on the truth and what is right. You're the one who is looking for how to pull them down. You are not God. There's only one God. They say every dog has its day. Who knows what your tomorrow will be? Repent before it's too late, because God can cut you off. The Mwangas who were powerful then are long gone. The Idi Amins who killed Bishop Janan, Archbishop Janan Duhum are no more. You are not here forever. That when you're still here, when your time is still here, when you're breathing, do the right things right, and if saved. May the Lord bless you and encourage us to celebrate this day, that each of us reflects on our own life. Are you a perpetrator? Are you a victim? What is God saying? That we all change for the better, so that this world becomes a better place for all of us. When all of us are defenders of human rights, when all of us are defenders of justice and fairness, and when all of us choose to do the right things right. Thank you. I'm Reverend Samuel Ediao, servant of the Lord, encouraging you on this Matters Day. Thank you again. Bye.